Hello, this is a review of the practice test, and I'm just pointing out that the beginning of the practice test has a list of topics. So I would suggest that you use this list of topics as a checklist, and if you feel comfortable or confident with a particular area, you could put a little check mark or cross it off, and that can help guide your study. This video is going to go through problems 1 through 5. There are other videos that go through the other problems. So question 1 asks us to add or subtract. When we are adding, all we need to do is think about combining like terms. Like terms have the same variables involved. So for instance, these two both have x to the second. So those are like terms. These two both have just an x to the first. And these are our constants, or plain numbers. So if I look at my x squared terms, 1 plus -3 is -2. 3 plus 5 is 8. And I keep the x. And then -5 minus 1 would be -6, or subtracting 6. When we are subtracting, we do need to think about the fact that the subtraction sign applies to everything in this second polynomial. All of that is being subtracted. So I like to switch this to adding the opposite. I feel like I make fewer mistakes with signs if I do that. So I would have minus 4x squared minus 12x and plus 1 if I distribute that negative, and I don't need the parentheses anymore. And now this would become essentially the question I had for part A. So I'd have x to the third. I mean, not the same exact question, but the type of question. I have x to the third. These two combined, and I would have minus 3x squared. These two terms combined, and I would have minus 28x. And then subtracting 1 and adding 1, add up to 0. So that's it. Question number 2 is a multiplication problem. Anytime you're multiplying polynomials, you're going to think about distributing. So you can distribute in two directions. You could distribute the 3-termed or the trinomial like this. I'm starting to get confused on my arrows, but yes, right, I could do that. But what I'm actually going to do is distribute this way. So the 2x goes with all of those, and the minus 1 goes with all of those. Okay, my arrows are more tidy that way. Okay, so either way is fine. You'll get the same answer. It does not matter. Okay, it's personal choice. So I am distributing the 2x to the other 3. So 2x times x squared is 2x to the third. 2x times 4x would be plus 8x squared. And 2x times -9 is -18x. I kind of like stacking my answers, my middle of the problem answers, I should say, my steps, so that I can combine like terms easier. You don't have to do this, it's just an idea. So -1 times x squared, I'm going to write -1x squared and put that underneath the other x squared term I already have. -1 times 4x is -4x. Then -1 times -9 is +9. And then we are combining like terms, so it's like we're adding. We are adding. Okay, so 2x to the third. Combine my x squared terms, I get plus 7x squared. Put my negatives together on my x, combine my x term, and that's -22x plus 9. In number 3, we are dividing by a monomial, so we can split this up. You might have called this in your class rubber bands. You might have joked about manam demam, right? A monomial in the denominator. But what you're doing is taking each of the parts on top and dividing by what's in the bottom. Right, so you don't have to write what I'm writing out. I'm just trying to explain where answers come from. Okay, so each thing on top is divided by the monomial that you have in the bottom, which would give us 2x squared. It would give us, so 3 over 6, that's like a half. So a half, and then x squared over x is just an x. Just like back here, x cubed over x is x squared. Here, these x's would cancel. 4 over 6 is the same as 2 over 3. And then here, I would have 60 divided by 6, just 10 with an x on the bottom. Number 4, synthetic division. One of my favorites. Make a skybox. Okay, now if the divisor is x minus 2, if we were solving an equation and x minus 2 was a factor, that would mean x equals 2. 2 is what goes in the skybox. Now, I don't know if x minus 2 is going to be a factor or not, but if it were, x minus 2 would be my factor. Okay, 2 is the thing that goes in the skybox. Then we're going to put our coefficients out. So 1, 1, -1, -10. Everything was covered to the third, to the second, to the first, no x. So I don't need to insert a 0. Then we bring down the first term. Then it's skybox times that number. So I'll get 2. Add vertically, I get 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Add vertically, you get 5. Take your skybox times this number, you get 10. Add, and you get 0. So 0 is my remainder. Now understand, you do need to actually write the answer. The question was dividing these. My answer is not all of this gobbledygook. My answer is interpreting the result down here. So my result is, let's see, this is a constant, this is an x, this is an x squared. So 1x squared plus 3x plus 5 with a remainder of 0. If my remainder were not 0, like say this had been 17, then I would have 17 over x minus 2 as a term right at the end there. Okay, now that's not what happened, but I just wanted to mention that in case it happens on a different question. Okay? All right, and our last question for this video, you can find the other videos in the same place you found this one. This says, which of the following 2 characteristics of a polynomial are most important in determining end behavior? End behavior is that thing, right, where we talk about which way the arrows are going on a graph, on a polynomial graph. Okay, it's these 4 situations, okay, for polynomials. And the way that you know which of the 4 you are in is by looking at the degree and looking at the leading coefficient. And in particular, the thing you care about with the degree is if the degree is even or odd. And the thing you care about with the leading coefficient is if it is positive or negative. The combination of those answers tells you which of these 4 cases you are in. Okay? Thank you so much. Keep studying.